Hey guys, so today we're going to touch on something because this morning I woke up just as any other day, went over and had a look at some of the comments, and today there was a comment from this person stating that, well, Frederick, I've been trying to make websites, I've been trying to learn HTML and CSS, and I've been trying for 3 months and I can still not produce a website. Can you help me? Or what am I doing wrong, basically? So that's what we're going to talk about. So let's get into it. Now, this is exactly what I've been saying to you guys in all these different videos, where I try my best to not crush the people who has this idea that you can become a professional software developer or even just produce a website at a semi-professional level or even at an amateur level in 3 months. It is very, very, very unlikely, because what this person is now realizing, which I think is it's going to be a bit of an eye-opener, is that CSS and HTML, the thing that you see when you open an HTML document, is a fraction of what it takes to produce a working website these days. This is why WordPress and these other platforms are so popular, because they are virtually plug and play. You simply follow the instructions that have been outlined in a guide without understanding any of the underlying technology. If you're using WordPress with a bit of CSS, you know the bare bone minimum of what it takes to produce a website. I would even go as far as to say that if you even start trying to adding anything on top of that, you're still not even close to understanding the whole stack, understanding how to do that without WordPress, because WordPress abstracts away absolutely everything. Now what this person is learning is that when you want to do this from scratch, which is what we do, guys, this is what a professional software developer does. A professional software developer does not use WordPress in order to produce a website. They build it from the foundation, from everything, because that is what paying customers they want. A small-time little company, or a company who is not so focused on a custom solution or doesn't want something of that nature, they will be fine with using off-the-shelf solutions. But large corporations with a lot of money have very specific needs. They need professionals that can build exactly what they want, and that is a lot trickier than CSS and HTML or WordPress. So in order for that, this is the tricky part now. So what do I tell this person? How do I explain this? Well, as you probably have noticed, the way that I like to handle this type of question is by setting the expectations correctly. First and foremost, explaining that you will not be able to produce professional grade software. You might be able to produce a simple basic website in a few months and learn those things. That's one feasible thing to do, but you will not be a professional grade software developer in just a few months. It's not going to happen, because the thing is, let's just walk through it, right? So in order for this person to go from where they are today, in other words, they have just learned HTML and CSS. Now, apart from that, in order for them to get whatever they made to the internet and make it work in the same way that they probably expect a website to work, apart from that, they're most likely going to have to learn a server or something of that nature. They need something to serve up that file, and it is absolutely feasible for you to just have a static website, static content server like Nginx or whichever server that web server that you want in order to do that. But that's also going to require them to learn that server, so they're going to have to learn a server. Most likely some type of server-side programming language if they want to create their own solution, and then it's going to probably be rendering, unless it's just a static website they want to serve up. If they want to have some dynamic content and maybe upload some things, which brings us to the next thing. They need to understand how HTTP works, because in order for some meaningful thing, apart from actually showing the file to somebody, they're going to have to know that too. And that means they need to understand routing, basic networking, in other words, understanding IP addresses and how that sort of thing works. DNS, which is also something that is required in order for you to actually have a domain. Which brings us to, okay, buying and setting up a DNS. How do you do that? Hosting. That's the next thing. Okay, so hosting, how do you host the thing? Then we might want to have a database that needs to also be there if you want to have something meaningful. Not for a personal blog perhaps, but if you want to make a real website. And depending on the scope of this application, let's say that you actually want other people to use it, well then it's users, like session management, password storage, which brings us to hashing and encryption, and possibly file uploading, how to upload a file to a server and manage that. So it kind of grows on you, as you can imagine. As I said, CSS and HTML is literally the bare bone basics. With these two, and this is what I find so hilarious about people who seem to, they call themselves front-end developers if they know CSS and HTML. And I keep telling them that there is no way that you can produce a real website with just those skills. You can't. Because as I said, like I can keep on going, guys. If you want, I can list up all the things that I think are relevant, and the things that I just touched on is like the bare bone minimum stuff. This is the stuff that, like, we're not even talking about security like HTTPS and other considerations, such as if you have a really large scale system, okay, logging, monitoring, upscaling, that sort of thing. And if you want to scale modernly these days without just having a very simple server, like, what are you going to use? Are you going to use Kubernetes and like Docker? Something like Amazon Web Services, like Lambda functions. There's tons and tons of this stuff, guys. That's why it takes a long time to get good at it. I'm not trying to discourage you. I'm just saying that you have to set your expectations correctly. So, what do you tell this type of person? Like, honestly, the first thing we need to figure out here is if this person is interested in building websites or designing websites. Because that's something that I think a lot of people seem to, that distinction, that threshold, seems to be the thing that is an issue for people who want to be in front end or just want to make websites. Designing a website, guys, is a lot easier than building it. Now, I'm not saying that design is easy, because design requires a lot of talent and a lot of skill and a lot of practice to get good at, just as any craft. But it is easier for you to get started with Photoshop and Sketch and make something nice and make design a website than it is to build it. Because building it requires you to know a lot of stuff. You have to know a lot of things. Not just CSS, not just HTML or a little bit of JavaScript. A lot more. Unless you have somebody else who builds it for you. So, we will, unfortunately, I do actually have a few videos on HTML and stuff like that. I never finished the CSS course, but I'll have a talk to this person and see if we can figure something out, because I am working on quite a few series, and maybe I can figure out something that will work, that will take an absolute beginner to a point where they can actually upload, create their own website. Like, let's just start simple, maybe a static website, something like a personal website. And let's see if we can make that go from what people most likely are going to do, which is like something that may to them feel a little bit, you know, it's exciting to build the website, but it doesn't feel like really proper, because, you know, I haven't even talked about responsive design and like all these other things in my little rant here. So maybe we could make a series about building websites from a complete beginner's perspective, and see where that ends up. But to summarize, guys, HTML and CSS is a fraction of the stuff that is needed in order to create a website. Have a great day.